Hey everybody. So I was working on this wallet and I thought to myself, let's climb out of my comfort zone here and let's talk to some people. So I'm not ready to do a full live yet, but here's a little step into being uncomfortable. So I'm working on this wallet, and I've got here my pattern that I designed and cut out so far, and here are all the pieces. And I'll kind of walk through the process of it, and I may fast forward through some stuff while I punch some holes, or maybe while I stitch or whatever. But in the process, kind of walk through the nature of this specific product, and then maybe others, the type of leather I like to use, the different types of tools that come along with, doing this project here. And what I'm doing is I'm just getting ready. I've got a toolbox right in front of me, and I'm just grabbing some of the tools that I'm going to need to do this specific pattern. And I think I got everything. So I've got my pattern. I'm working on a vertical bifold. Sorry for the funky little lighting, but working on a vertical bifold. And if you stick through this, at some point, I've got a discount code for the website if you guys are interested in purchasing this or any other products that I've got on there. But I've got a discount code that I'll share in this for 20% off of your entire purchase, and I'll get to that at some point through this video if you stick with me here. So we can kind of go through some of the tools that I use. I can go through the types of leather I like to use, and maybe some of the methods that I learned along the way. I'm still a few months into this, and I've really become quite passionate about it, and I'd really like this to be something huge for our family, maybe our destiny, hopefully. So let's get into it. I've got a vertical bifold here, and I've got all the pieces that I've already cut out. So we've got the back piece here, and what I'm looking for is the finished product. So this is not finished. This is not completely finished because I still have to finish some edges, but it'll look like this. Boop. It'll look like this. This is something that I was just practicing on. The stitch is not completely perfect on this one, and the leather is not completely perfect. This is going to be an R&D one, so I'm going to be putting my own stuff into it, and just using it regularly to see how it holds up. But I was practicing a different type of stitch on this one, and I used some scrap leather to make this one. So this is pretty much what it's going to look like. The stitch is not going to be the same. It's going to be a little bit bigger stitch. The stitch is, I think, a 3mm, which is really tight. And I'm not going to use this one, so that's why I was a little crooked in some areas. But I like to use a 5mm, and that's a little bit wider. So you'll see the stitch will be a little further apart. There's two different types of pricking irons. Pricking iron is what we create the holes in the leather prior to stitching, so it's not it's not impossible. So there's this kind, and then there's a diamond cut kind, and these just make straight holes, and these make a slanted diagonal hole, so the stitch looks kind of like this. And then here the stitch looks right across like this. And I really like the way that this looks. So for this specific pattern, I'm not going to use a diamond. I'm going to use the regular hole. And I've got a couple of these. These right here is the 6 prong, and then the 2. So the 6 prong will be for the long edges, and then the 2 helps me get around the corners. So this is what we're putting together today. So we've got our back panel, and it folds like that, back panel. And then we've got money pocket number 1 and number 2, and they sit right on top like this. And then we've got card pocket number 1 and number 2, and they sit, this side and this side. Again, there's just be a rough visual here so you can kind of see how it gets put together. And number 1 and number 2. They get stitched together on top of the first pocket, the money pockets, and then everything gets stitched together on the back pocket. So what I like to do, which I've already started, is I'll take the pockets, not the money pockets, particularly the card pockets, which I've already done, and we take an edge beveler, and it's something like this. I've got a couple different sizes. And what the edge beveler does is, let's get a piece of leather real quick and I'll show you. The edge beveler here, literally, you've got a straight, flat edge here. And if I wanted to just burnish this, meaning I wanted to make this edge nice and shiny like this is here, if I did that, then it would mushroom up the edges. So I just take the edge beveler and literally just bring it up along the edge, and it takes a nice little edge off. You do that in the front and the back, and then it creates a really nice round to it. Then you take some sandpaper here, and you just sand. Since it's only one piece, you don't have to go ham sandwiches. You kind of just sand it down, maybe like a 1500 or 2000 grit. You just make it nice and smooth and nice and edged, and then you'll use some burnishing cream, some Tokonol cream, and a wood slicker, and you'll just slick the edges down to make them nice and pretty. So that's what I've done with these pockets already. I've already edged them, and I've already dyed them, I've already sanded them, and I've already even created a little edge right along the edge of the pocket. It's really nice. With this tool here, you heat it up and you kind of just go and you crease the edge with it. So that's what this is, an edge crease. So I've done that to all the pockets so far, because it's hard to finish your edges when the entire wallet is assembled. So you do the little pieces first to make sure that they are perfection. And then and I've taken my Tokonol and I put it in a marker here, because I really, it's just so much easier to manage instead of always getting it on your fingers. And I've diluted it just a little bit so that it can come out in the marker. Rub it on the edges, which I've already done, but just for the sake of this video, I'll kind of do it again. And then you just take your wood slicker and you kind of just rub it back and forth. Sometimes for quite a while, depending on how slick you want those edges and how much you've already taken care excuse me, and how much you've already taken care of making it smooth in the sanding process. Again, this is only one piece of leather, so there's not much that you have to sand down and slick down. But if you really want a nice beautiful edge, and there you go. So you'll see it's nice and shiny. Look at the shine on there. Really cool. So that when you're reaching for your pocket, your wallet, in your wallet, you get your cards out, you're not feeling a really rough edge. You're feeling a really nice, fine, smooth edge. And then with the inside pockets, I've skived down a little bit of the leather. So you see it's thick along here, and then it starts getting thinner around here. And I've done that particularly because I'm looking for a different knife, but that's okay. I'll use this one. I've done that so that when the pockets sit on top of one another, it doesn't create this really bulky look. When it sits flush against the pockets, it looks like there's two pockets sitting right on top of each other. And it won't be too bulky here, so you shove cards in there. You can actually maybe put one or two more extra cards in that slot. All right. So then, since I finished them, since I've skived them, since I've cleaned them up and dyed them up already, what I'm going to do is just one extra little clean right here. Little extra from the skiving. There was like a remnant of leather left. So I'm going to take these pockets and I'm going to assemble. So we want to measure where we want the pockets to sit. And I like to use right edge angle like this, so that it always sits up exactly perfect to the pockets right underneath. And then you've got it, perfection. It's literally lined up to perfection. And you can get these anywhere, Amazon, anywhere, just a right edge angle. All right, so what I'll do is, because I want to sew this inside pocket down first, what I'll do here is I will line it up exactly up against, it's lined up perfectly up against there, and then I'll line this pocket, like I did before, up against the corner, so I know where to stitch my pocket down. And I'll move that. Sometimes you gotta do a little more readjusting if I bumped it with my hand, which I tend to do. And then, all right, we're good. Take the top pocket off, and then I'll take my awl. It's literally a scratch awl. It's just a sharp edge here, and I'll just create the line as to where it is, so I know where I need to glue. Where I need to glue later. So I'll just create a little template, and then there you've got it. I've got a little marker as to where that pocket's supposed to sit, and then in the process I'll take my scratch awl and I'll scratch the leather just a little bit. I mean, you could do it with one of these, which that's what this is a little rough, so you can kind of scratch it off. And I'm just gonna tip this down just a little bit more. You don't really need to see my face that much. And I'll just scratch the leather just a little bit so that when I put the glue on, it knows what to do. Stay glued. So, there you go. Clean it up a little bit, and then I'm just going to take some leather glue, leather cement, and I'm going to add some to the edge here. No, let's open it up. It's not open. Make sure there's no glue stuck in there. And it appears that there is. Yes. All right. Let's try again. There we go. And I'm going to put it on the sides here. And I've got like a little silicone brush here, and I kind of just even it out. Same thing on the sides here, just even it out. Make sure that there's enough glue that's going to hold it down, so when I get that stitch going, it's not going anywhere. And then you can put a little bit here on here too. Again, I don't need a lot because it's going to stay in place once I add the stitch, so I'm perfectly content with putting, you know, just a little glue here and a little glue here. Plus, I don't want overflow of glue everywhere. All right. I'm gonna let that tack up just a little tiny bit so that it does its good amount of sticking. And then we'll do the next pocket. We'll do the same thing on this pocket here. So I'm going to get my angle, line that up, hold it down, and find the sweet spot. Boom. Found the sweet spot, get my scratch awl, and mark it. Boom. Again, there's a little template where you want it to be. Scratch the leather just a little bit. And then the same thing here. And then glue that up. Little glue here, little glue here, little glue here. Same. Again, nothing crazy. I don't want pounds of glue here. But I do want enough that my pocket's going to stay in place. And a little bit more because the glue does try quite a cook. There we go. All right. Again, I'm going to let these dry over here, and then I'm going to bring these back over here. These should be good. So I'm lining this up. I'm lining the pocket up to exactly where I need it to be. With my roller, roll it into place. Roll it into place. Which gives it an extra oomph. Before I stitch it down, I want to make sure that the pocket is where I really, really, really need it. And it looks like there's a little overage, so I'm just gonna see. It really does. It really sticks. All right, I think that's where it is. There we go. All right. And here we go again. Just line it up. Boom shakalaka. Perfect. All right. Perfect. Lines up perfect with this pocket. Lines up perfect on my edge. Like that. And now we're ready to stitch. So what I'm going to do over here is I'm just going to create a stitch line at the bottom here. Made it a little stitch line. And I have my marble slab right here. And then just for the sake of this, because it's only going to be one knock, I'm going to keep holes. Boop. I'm going to let that dry just a little bit more, and I'm going to get these guys over here. Line this up, line this up, line this up, and line this up. Are we good to go? Let's see. Perfect. Again, pockets are perfectly lined up along the edges and right up against the seam. So now I'm going to just roll this out, roll it out so the glue can stick. And again, if you see me making little scuffs or marks, this leather is so beautiful that you know, it's meant to rub out. So I do clean, I mean, I do condition it afterwards, but you give it a little mark, and then it just, it's beautiful. And it'll get even cleaner when I condition it. So let's create the stitch again. I mean, the holes. So I'm just gonna create a stitch line. This is hidden, so it doesn't have to be absolutely exceptional. Stitch line. Take my pricking irons. When I do the actual pricks, like the holes on the wallet in a minute, I'll bring the marble over so that you can see me do it. But here goes the holes. So then I'm going to take my thread, okay, my needles, and I leave the tails on them because they're just easier to find and grab. I've got a magnet over here on my toolbox, and it just holds all my needles. With these specific holes, I like to use these no matter what, but I love to use these needles versus this little skinny baby needle. You can see the difference here. These tend to break easy. I actually stab myself way too many times. And then also these are easier to manage. So much easier to manage. So I tend to use these. Occasionally I'll use these depending on if I go to a smaller stitch hole. But here we go. So I'm going to get my thread. I've got a medium brown color here, so I'm going to stick. I do like the contrast, but I like the waxy. I want the waxy thread, and you can see the difference. This is a wax thread. You can see nice and shiny, and this is a nylon thread here. Beautiful. I love it. It's a little bit of wax in it. This is wax coated, so it's just so much easier to work with, and it's pretty. I like it. This is a little more luxurious look to it, but I feel like this one does the job. Beautiful job. So I'm going to stick with, oh, not this one. I'm going to use some black. So, just looking for my nippers here. And now I'm just going to bring the camera up so you're not staring at my mouth only. A little bit more. Boop. All right. So I'm just taking the tails off from the previous stitch that I made on that other wallet. And I just have some nippers here and just nip them right off. Boop. And clear that off. And then usually I just measure the amount of stitch area, and then I just multiply it by 4.5. Well, again, it all depends on how much leather you're binding together and how small the holes are, like how close together they are. And then when threading the needles, again, you're using 2 needles because both needles are going through the same hole. And that's why, you know, hand stitching is just so much better than a machine. I mean, I'm really considering using the machine or getting a machine because, you know, it's just faster. However, hand stitching is just so much stronger. The thread, you've got this thread, it's going through the same hole 2 times and being pulled tight with each. With the machine, it goes through once and comes out and keeps on moving. So in this case, I've got the 2 needles, and I just got to start from the opposite side, and I'll go through the first 2 holes like that, and then pull them together, hold one down, go through the same second hole, and just make my way all the way across, bringing both needles straight through. And it's really, you know, it's a quick 1 through 3 stitch. These pockets are, you know, easy stitch pockets, and then just pull tight, hold down, pull tight, hold down. No, this is not a tutorial on how to sew, because then I'd be taking my time and I'd be showing you. This is just, you know, a window into the process. All right, again, this pocket is good. The stitch is going to be unseen, but we want to make sure that those aggressive credit carders like to shove cards in there, that it's going to hold, it's going to withhold, you know, that. All right. So we've got them through. Gonna nip it, and we're going to burn it. Again, it's wax covered thread. You just burn it down and roll it in. Stitched. Boop. All right, so this pocket ain't going anywhere. Now these will get stitched down when I stitch the whole body together, but that's done for now. We'll do the same thing on this side here. Going to nip it. You know, I was really thinking about this whole process and just, you know, thinking to myself, should I fast forward through some of this? You know, honestly, through the stitching, I'm probably gonna, unless I've got tons of things to talk about, but probably gonna do it through the stitching. We'll see. All right, so let's measure 1, 2, 3, 4. All right. And then when threading the needle, you literally just thread it through itself. Since it's a wax thread, I don't only have to do it twice. On that other nylon thread, I definitely do it twice because it's silkier. So if I pull, you know, pull the needle a little too tight, it slides and rips right out, and that's quite frustrating. All right, so again, we've got our loop. Start from the back. Start with the first 2 holes, and boom. Sew it up. Make sure that pocket stays on nice and tight. Usually, in what you'll see in a little bit, I usually do like to sew or stitch with gloves on, and I have them over here, but this is just a short stitch. I don't really need it. But with the longer stitches, I like to wear latex or nitro gloves because it helps me, number one, grab the needle easier, and I can move a little faster. And I don't, because we have oils in our hands, the oils end up transferring over to the leather, and if you're just manhandling the leather way too much, I don't want it to patina quicker than it has to. So I do, towards the middle of, you know, assembling the wallet, I do tend to put some gloves on when I'm about to finish it, specifically when I'm done conditioning. Let me roll it out. Roll it out. Pocket, card pocket number 2, done. So now, I'm going to tip you down again. So, I've got my 2 card pockets, and I got to get pockets 3 and 4 put on there as well. Boom, boom. So, like I mentioned before, you kind of want to scratch this beautiful leather here. Again, it's not seen, so you want to scratch the leather right where the pockets are going to go. so that the glue stays in place. This one. My pocket needs to stay in place. And I could put this tool back because now I don't need it no more. And we'll brush away any debris. And we're ready for more glue. So I'm going to do glue on either side here. And then the same on the other side. And I'm just going to go in the outward direction so that I don't get glue on the front side, and so that I can kind of use the glue, leftover glue. It's still on my spat here. And I'll transfer it to this. We've got a guy on a bike outside the window listening to some music. Alright, so we're going to let these two pieces dry on just a little bit so that we can get that tacky factor. And I'm actually going to clean this off because it's getting a little glooky and I don't like it. It's not good. I don't have that clean feeling that I like. Okay, so add some more glue and get this all glued up here. Much better. Let that dry. Specifically around these corners too. The corners get a lot of wear and tear. And mind you, we're going to stitch these pockets down, but still you want to make sure that that glue is doing its job. You don't want all the force to go just on the stitching. You want to keep that stitching looking nice and sexy without coming undone. Now, it won't come undone, but just in case you're a little rougher than most. All right. So let's put this to the side here and get these bad boys back over here and assembled. Oh, that's not this side, that's this side. All right, so I'm just gonna line it up using my perfect. Beautiful. And just take my roller, just roll on the edges here. Make sure you stay down. Again, this stuff will get sanded off, so if there's any glue over pour, you're not going to see it. Gotta sand it all down and clean it up really nice. So here we go. Pockets. Well, 1, 2, 3. Done. And we'll do the same thing. We'll line this b-boy up. Line it up over here. Perfect. And perfect. Now, what I was thinking about in this process of doing this video and possibly lives in the future was, you know, some people like to place an order and they like to watch their items being made, the process of it being made. I know that, you know, it's the thing, it's the culture now to just watch people do things. And if that's something that you guys want to see, I could definitely start doing, I can start doing that. So if you place an order, you know, it's like, hey, I placed an order, could, you know, you do a live, or could you do, you know, can you record it? I'd love to see it, or anything like that. You know, put it in the comments here, because I definitely would like you know, some a little bit of encouragement, you know, just to jump out of my comfort zone and try it. So we've got, here we go, pockets, boom, boom, done. Okay, so now the next thing is, I'm going to keep this to the side. Just looking at the things that I need and the things that I don't need anymore. So I don't need the edge creaser anymore. Put it away. I don't need my scratch all anymore. I don't need, this is a skiver, so this is what I use to make it thin anymore. And I do need my edge beveler. Put it over to the side. All right. Now what we're going to do is we're going to create some punches, some hole punches here. And it's going to be out of 1/4 inch. So I like to keep my stitch 1/4 inch from the edge. And I use this and I just measure 1/4 inch right here on my mat. Boom, 1/4 inch. So then I just take that and I want to make sure it's 1/4 inch from the bottom and 1/4 inch from the side so that I don't run into my stitch later on. Okay, and I'm going to do that again and make sure. There we go. All right, one more time. And there goes my line, 1/4 inch. And I'm going to use it as a guide to make my holes. So again, I want to stay away from the bottom at least 1/4 inch so that my stitch lines don't cross paths. All right, so here goes my stitch lines. Boom, 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 boom. And what I'm going to do is now is I'll bring the marble over. I'll bring this marble, slide it over it just enough so that you can see it. It's just a marble slab and a punch pad here so that my tools don't get messed up by the marble slab. And I'm going to take this tool and I am just going to line it up according to the line that I've already created and create my hole. I gotta get a little banging here, but it's not gonna be too much because I've got, and didn't go all the way through. And it went all the way through. And that's what I want to see. I want to see it go straight through. And then I hold my pockets down and keep moving. And I'll show you the finished product as soon as I finish because I don't want to mess up my momentum here. Make a crooked lines. And then we'll keep going. We'll do this about 2 more times here. And when I do this, I use the last hole that I just used, that I just made, and I use it as my guide. So here I am. Here are my holes. Nice and straight. Beautiful. And I can see the sunlight through them, so I know that it's going to be an easy stitch. Okay? Let's do it again. This one I'm going to do it on. I'm right-handed, mostly. So, I say mostly because there's tons of things that I do with my left hand. I didn't thank my mama for that one. But, dominantly, my right hand. So I like to have the punch on the right side so that I can see what I'm doing. And give it a couple whacks. Make sure that it went through. Yes. Use the hole as a guide. And the line as a guide. Hold it in place. Don't deviate off that line. You want to stay right as close to as possible. Especially because you're using a stitch that's different color. You do not. Actually, you know what? No, I'm going to do this. You don't want to that line mess it up, and it's extremely noticeable. Again, I can see the sunlight right through those holes. It's perfect, perfect, perfect line up here. 1/4 inch all the way down. Beautiful. And what I did was I've got probably like a 22-ounce mallet here, and the mallet and the stone, they do beautiful things together. So now that this is all stitched up, well, now that the holes are ready, I'm going to bring the camera back up here, and we're going to stitch it up again. I'll get it started, and then I'll fast forward through the entire stitch process as on the body, and we'll come up and we'll come back so that I'm not boring the hell out of you guys. So let's get this stitched. Let's get this stitch started, and then we'll keep it moving. So here's when I'm going to start putting my gloves on, because I really, really don't want the oils of my fingers to patina or mess with, you know, the leather more than it has to, okay? And good. Look at that. Silly. Let's try this again. All right. All right, so we've got our 2 needles. We're going to measure the thread out about 4 times with your width of the stitch area. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'll do an extra half there. All right. And you would think it'd be harder to lace up this with gloves on, but it's actually not. It's so much easier to manage. Again, I've got wax thread here, so I'm only just going to loop it in 1 time. And if you stuck with me this long, thank you. Thank you for sticking with me this long. Boop, boop. All right. And let's get stitching. Actually, I want to end down here on the bottom, so I'm going to start at the top. Now, as I get started, I'm actually going to stop the video and start it again, so hold on. All right, so here we're coming to the end of the stitch of the second pocket. Let's wrap it up here. And in order to close it off, I'm going to show you again what I do to close it off. Because it's wax thread, I do burn the ends. I back stitch about 3 times, 2 or 3 times. And I pull it tight. Boop, boop. Lighter. And I roll it down nice. All right, and we've got 2 beautiful pockets. Look at that. Beautiful pockets. 2 really nice bump little pockets. Now, what I do also like to do, which I'll probably do right now, is now it's time to finish these edges. You want to finish these edges, make them pretty. I'm going to actually create an edge, so I thought it was done, but we're going to take that edge. Let's sand it down just a little bit first. And then I've got my die that I have here in a marker form, and then I have my tokenol here that I also have in a marker form. It's just so much easier to manage. And I have Sandpaper. I've got all the degrees here, so I've got it all the way from 220 to about 3,000. If you can see that, I've got them all cut up. So I'm gonna take probably a little bit of each here. I don't need that much. Want these edges to be nice and smooth. And then I'll take a 3,000 and I'll keep the whole thing. All right. For the sake of this video, I'm not going to use my Dremel, but usually on the bigger edges where I really need to get them even, I'll take a Dremel machine. It's a sanding machine, and I'll just get the first even. But let's get this 200 here. And just you'll see you're looking for it to be even. The first one, I kind of just go in both directions. The more coarser the sandpaper, just to get it down. And then I'll go in one direction, the finer. The finer I get. Essentially, I want to see those layers look like one layer. Alright, and I think we're in a pretty decent place. So again, you want to see those two layers look like one layer. Okay, so then now I'm gonna since I brought it down a good amount, I'm gonna start to bevel these edges, and you'll see a good amount of this edge is gonna come right off. And then the same thing on this side. I want to get this raised edge right off, so I want to round those corners, round them up real nice. And then anything that's sticking out, and then take it down to the next. Some people wet the leather in between each sand. I don't really. I don't really do that to lay the fibers down. Maybe on the main body of it I'll do that, but on this pocket here I'm not going to need to do. And then sometimes, depending on how, if you miss the spot or whatever, you kind of have to go back and just clean up some of the fibers that are sticking up. There we go. So much cleaner. Gets a little tricky on the smaller parts, but just take your time and then sand where it's needed. So then I'm just going to make my way down smoother, 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 and now I'm just going to go in one direction. one little stubborn spot that I need to get. It's usually where the pockets meet each other. Yeah, it's usually where the pockets meet one another. So now I'm already at, what, 1,500, 2,000? Most of the fibers are already laid down. And then before I get to the last one, let me just clean this up here. I'm just going to go back over with my edge beveler, make sure that there's nothing still sticking up as far as fibers are concerned, which there sometimes is. When you go through with the sandpaper, sometimes some fibers still pop up. And then the same thing with the front. I think the front is good. It's mainly the back. Now I'm going to go in with my 3,000. And I'm just going to give it now all this extra sanding alleviate some of the glue that was on there. Anything that was left over from assembly. And be careful, I've stabbed myself so many times with this thing. Perfect. Alright, so we've got this really nice soft edge. Mind you, there's 3 pieces of leather sitting right on top of there. And I don't know if you can see it, but looks like 1. So before I do tokonole, I do like to dye the edges so they stick out a little bit. I'll do it on this side so you can see. And we'll let that dry. All right, so now that these edges are nice and smooth and they're dyed, I'll let them dry a little bit. And let's clean up a little bit. One of the things that I truly love about this whole thing is being able to stay organized and clean it up. Stuff all over the place. And it does make a mess. You can see it. Makes a mess. So, they're all cleaned up here. Just dry it off. So we've got our 2 pockets. We've got our 2 dyed edges. And they're dry. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take the tokonole. It comes in a jar like this, and it's like a paste, kind of, or cream. Not as thick as a paste. It's like a cream. I think Elmer's glue. Actually kind of smells like Elmer's glue. And I just dilute it a little bit. Enough that this marker does its job. And then dab it once or twice so that it can come out. There we go. And just boop, 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 boop along the edge here. A nice healthy amount, but not enough that it's going to drip on the sides. You don't want that to drip over the edge. You want the edges to be nice and saturated, but not enough that it's going to make a big mess, because I don't want it to drip over the edges. And just take your little finger and rub it in. And so then I have this wood slicker. I actually dyed it. It wasn't this color. And you've got a couple different sizes. And even the end point. And I like to even it out with the end. And then I like to go and I'll do this side. And you're literally just going to slick down. It's a slicker for a reason. You're going to slick down the edges so that it's just this magnificent pocket. It won't even look like it's multiple layers of leather. It will look like one thick piece of leather if you do it right. And shiny and smooth and beautiful. So let's, I mean, you're going to go through this process quite a couple times, depending on how thin the leather in the pocket is. And if you can get the leather in one of the smaller slots to kind of pinch the leather together, that's a plus too. Then you start to hear this like sound that it makes, and it's, you know, it's doing its job. Hear that sound. That's how you know where you want it. That sound. And then it just creates this beautiful shine on the edge here. That looks, look at the shine. Beautiful. Ta-da! So there you've got one pocket. Just brush any debris off. And you've got pocket number uno. Done. What a beautiful, nice edge. Nice, shiny, soft. Let's do it again. So we'll get our toconol. And sometimes if it's not as smooth as I'd like it to be, I'll just go over it again. Again, you don't want it too much. You don't want it to drip on your leather, because it starts making discolorations and stuff. All right. Looking beautiful. So now if you stuck with me this long, thanks. And if you haven't, I didn't miss out on the coupon code. But here we are. Burnishing some pockets together. And this is beautiful and shiny too. You want to get it all the way up, because this is going to get a lot of wear and tear. You want to make sure this is feeling as smooth and as... There goes that sound. So here. That's the sound you're looking for. And you want that all the way up the side. Perfect. Alright. And look at the shine. Shiny. Shiny, shiny, shiny. Beautiful. So then you've got your 2 pockets. I mean, and at the end of the day, it's literally just assembling the rest of the wallet and finishing the edges and stitching it up and finishing. So here we are so far. I'm glad we're going to finish it off off the camera because I need to step away for a second and get something to drink. But thanks for sticking it out with me. Thanks for getting through this whole process with me. I'll probably add the stitch, the fast forward of the stitch on the end, probably a little bit later. But if you stuck with me this whole time, the family and friends discount coupon code is for an additional 20% off your entire order. So if you order more than one thing or just one thing, 20% off your entire order. And that's going to be, the coupon code is going to be family friend. Family friend, all one word, family friend 20. Family friend 20, all caps, family friend 20 for 20% off your entire purchase on the website. That website is letitmoveyoudesigns.com. Take a peek at all the things that are going on in there. I'm hoping to add a couple more things and a couple more colors. So family friend 20, all capital words, all capital letters, family friend 20 for 20% off your entire cart at checkout. And you know, if you want, follow me on social media. It's Limy, Limy_designs, Limy_designs, and that's on Instagram. If you want to follow me there, and it's Let It Movie Designs on Facebook. I've got a couple different items in the catalog already, and I'm hoping to add some new stuff. So we've got some wallets, we've got some totes, we've got a satchel, we've got a toiletry bag, we've got some coasters, and then a couple new exciting stuff that I'm working on that I'd really like to get out. I actually am about to add this to the website as well. So if you haven't been on my Instagram and seen, you know, some of the stuff that I'm trying, just, you know, tried my hand at a wristlet, keychain wristlet with zippers. So I've got a little zipper wristlet here. You put your things in there and you go on your merry way. And detachable wristlet keychain if you want to just use the keychain. Logo on there. All my leather is an imported Italian leather, full grain Italian leather. Currently I've got olive green, I've got a medium brown, I've got black, tan, and dark brown. I also have carmine red, and that's for the satchel and dog collars. Satchel, belts, and dog collars are carmine red right now. And the carmine red is probably, if you can see it, it's over my shoulder here. That's the carmine red. So again, if you stuck through this whole thing with me, it is the coupon code at checkout, 20% off. It's family friend 20, all capital words at checkout, 20% off your whole cart. Thanks for sticking through this with me. Thanks for growing with me. I know that I've taken this business to a couple different places, but I think this is a beautiful place to say that this might be my final destination. I really love doing leather, and I'm sorry to those that have reached out for other items that I used to make in the past, but I've totally transitioned this business over to fully leather work, and I really am looking forward to continuing to make this flourish for myself and for my family, and hopefully this, you know, this could be the destiny here. So thank you for, you know, for being a part of my joy story, and I hope you find joy.